Stay tuned for the Splash Live. It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the Greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Welcome, friends and neighbors. I'm Tyler Keefe. Thank you for joining us as we say goodbye to September and welcome you into October 2025 all across the Greater West Bloomfield area and all over the world on civiccentertv.com and across our social media. Your West Bloomfield Lakers are 5-0 following another home victory last week on the gridiron against the Birmingham Groves Falcons. I spoke to head coach Zach Hilbers on a brand new edition of This Week in Laker Football to get the inside scoop on the Lakers' 20-7 victory last week, especially one that became quite an offensive game after beginning as a very defensive matchup.
Well, I guess it was nice to be winning, and we did a really good job, I think, of controlling the clock and controlling the ball. We had a 21-play drive and another one that was about 8+ minutes. We just kind of sputtered a little bit in the red zone. Went for it on the fourth down, didn't get it. Inside the 5 2 other times, had to settle for field goals, and that can be frustrating, I guess. But we felt we were in control of the game. They credit to them. They kind of hung around, kept us out of the end zone, were able to actually take a lead in the second half. But our guys have shown time and time again to just kind of be resilient to that type of stuff and kind of keep their eyes on the prize and the goal.
Body language and just the attitude overall on the sideline and the locker room, certainly out on the field, plays a big role in that. How does that contribute to your team being able to be resilient and have those tough first and second quarter of a game, come back and really punch the team in the mouth the second half like they seemed to do last week at home?
No, it's huge. I think, that body language and kind of your composure is contagious either way. So, if you start, losing it and start going negative, that spreads, and it's very, kind of conducive to not having a good product on the field. And our kids have been really good about, the inverse of that, just kind of keeping their head cool, focused on the job at hand.
Continue to see the versatility offensively for this team, getting so many different players involved. Through the first 5 weeks, you've got 2 receivers that have at least 100 yards receiving, if not more, 3 running backs with at least 200 rushing yards or more this season. How does that help you game plan for a variety of different styles of play defensively? It's one thing going up against Groves, completely different matchup when you see Oxford a couple weeks back at Rochester Adams, a couple weeks forward at Clarkson. How does that versatility help you and Coach Rye's game plan?
It's funny. We actually talked about that with the kids yesterday in our team meeting, was just about how it's kind of like if you ask someone like their favorite movie or their favorite musical artist, whatever, and it always kind of seemingly be this fluid thing that changes. This might not be my favorite movie now, but I know it was at one point. And I guess our offense is kind of like that too. Like, we'd like to be versatile, and luckily we have the kids that allow us to be versatile, not only individually as players, but to be able to spread the ball around in so many different ways. And because we scout ourselves, we don't game plan for ourselves, but I like to think it would make game planning pretty difficult because, we do it for other teams. And if we see guys that can line up and hurt you a lot of different ways, it's tough.
It's a young team too, especially on offense. And I keep going back to this. You had 7 players returning defensively that were starters last year, just 4 on the offensive side, only one of those on the offensive line, that being Travis Robertson. And yet you have that composure. You seem to have that maturity from this team. And then you get to go back with some of the veteran players and check off some of those boxes. You defeat Rochester Adams. You come back around. Now you defeat Birmingham Groves in a tough matchup on your field versus a tough matchup on their field. For the veteran players, how have those first few weeks being able to check off some of those boxes, right some of those wrongs from last year, both in the scoreboard and the full gameplay, helped them to stay motivated and confident for the second half of the season?
Well, I mean, it's been their goal for a really long time to kind of get payback on some of those games that we didn't go our way last year. So I think for them, it's got to feel pretty good. But they also know that the next couple of weeks, we got a few of those on our schedule again. So it kind of keeps them, I guess, focused on the task at hand, but also satisfied with, at least a couple of those wins that we have.
Oxford coming up on Friday, back on the road, going to Big Blue on Friday night, 7 p.m. kickoff. We'll have that for you right here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Visit us on civiccentertv.com/LakersSports for our live coverage. If you haven't watched the game so far, all 5 of them available for you, linked on that page as well. Coach, defense played huge in that game. We talked so much already about offense, despite that really being a game that defense was highlighted. Some of the players that stood out, Tristan Hunter assisting in some of the biggest stops of that game, came up with a couple of them himself. He's been a pretty big surprise breakout player in 2025. How does he help to contribute to a defensive line that's already pretty stacked with Tank Pittman and Jeremiah Benson and company?
Well, he's fit in pretty nicely, and I guess it's a surprise if you haven't been around the program. He's been up here for a couple of years, learning from some really good players and kind of, going through the ropes that a young kid goes through, trying to earn playing time in a program like ours. But, he's earned it this year, and I think all those times the last couple of years kind of hardened him as a player, and he's really stepped up to the challenge as a O lineman and a D lineman. So it was good to see that. It was good to see the defense, again, step up when they were needed to, and we're just really proud of them as a unit.
Yeah, the game changer on Friday night, Will Espy had an incredible game in all 3 phases, played excellent on the defensive side. Offense was one of the focal points of that team, and early on had a big mistake, had a fumble, but later came back and had some of the biggest offensive plays of the game, including the game-sealing touchdown at the end, which was preceded by a couple of really huge stops against Birmingham Groves. How has his contribution now to both offense and defense been a big change for your team in 2025?
Yeah, it goes back to one of those things that you mentioned. We have a lot of returning starters on defense, maybe not as many on offense, but guys like him and Jeremiah are playing more offense now, and they might not be experienced on offense as varsity players, but they've done it growing up, and they're experienced football players that we trust to do whatever it is we're trying to do that week. So it kind of gives us a little bit more experience that I think we probably show on paper, and he's just been a real versatile weapon all around. I think he's been one of the better players in the OAA.
Having talked to coaches over the first few weeks of this season, some of the more common themes that have come up with them talking about their elder players is having the veteran players be basically a second coaching staff. It's one thing to have to coach your players, but when your players are coaching the players, it makes your job so much easier. How do players like Will Espy, like Jeremiah Benson, like Obi Duru, and so many of these veteran players that have been here in recent years help your coaching staff take this team to the next level as the paper shows, the 5-0 first few weeks?
Yeah, they've been invaluable in that regard. It really, it sounds silly, but it lets us as coaches focus on football instead of doing all the other stuff, because they do such a good job of policing everything else, and really just, I guess, keeping the attitude and the focus and the morale of the team where it needs to be. So it's invaluable. The best teams, I think, are player-led, and I think this one is player-led.
You can follow the Lakers all throughout the season, including this week as they head back on the road to Oxford on civiccentertv.com/LakersSports. Right now on that page, our new episode of This Week in Laker Football is available. That will also be where you can watch the Lakers take on the Oxford Wildcats on the road this Friday with our broadcast on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. In Greater West Bloomfield, much like many towns all across the state of Michigan, you're either a Spartan or a Wolverine. Doug Cohen, of course, is a Michigan man, an alum of the storied football program at the University of Michigan and a leader in its alumni community. Now he's taken his love of Michigan sports, including Michigan football, to a whole new level, launching Hail Media, giving you a look behind the scenes with the Wolverines. We now bring in Doug to the Splash Live to learn more about Hail Media. Doug, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on getting this started.
Hey, thanks a lot. It's great to be with you again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you on. You and I talked about this off camera just shortly after the last time you were here on the Splash Live talking about Michigan football. This much more of an exciting topic, something you've had in the works for a while, bringing together a bunch of different programs that highlight Michigan sports and the culture at the University of Michigan behind its athletics. What for you sparked wanting to start a media group like this and put these shows together for Michigan fans locally and across the world?
Well, so it's an important question because the genesis of this really started out with the Football Alumni of Michigan, which I do a lot of work with. It's a nonprofit and an organization and a topic that's really near and dear to my heart because the purpose of FAM, of Football Alumni of Michigan, is to try to help former players in need. You know, a lot of guys come out of that program and playing Division I football, battered. And not necessarily in one piece, and some of them suffer from CTE and depression and some of these things that they need help with. So we started to think about ways that we could get our message out as Football Alumni of Michigan, and raise funds and be able to provide services. And we figured one way to do it would be to tell our stories. The rich tradition of Michigan football, and we've got all these great stories and former players that people are big fans of still to this day from their childhood growing up and watching their exploits at the big house. So we figured we would launch a media endeavor where we could start doing some podcasts and really tell our own stories, right? But as we started to go down that road, we realized we ran into a few obstacles from a standpoint of when you start to try to monetize too many different types of content as a nonprofit, if all of that content does not tightly focus on your nonprofit mission, then you can run into some risk where they could consider it taxable income, and you could threaten your nonprofit status if you try to monetize stuff that isn't the focus of your nonprofit. So we decided, so back up a second. So Chris Howard, who was the tailback on the 1997 national championship team, he and I had been working on this idea for FAM to have this FAM media thing. And once we realized it might not be a good idea for FAM to own it because of the nonprofit issue, we decided, well, this is still a great idea. And we've already put in enough work that we're going to continue to make it happen. And the thing about it is if by doing it separately and setting it up as Hail Media, now we can still support FAM, and FAM can actually have a podcast on Hail Media where their podcast will be focused on the FAM mission. So we can still make that happen without FAM owning the whole network and getting into these different types of content and topics that don't square with their mission. So that's the genesis of it. That's how it started. And since we started it, we've, the freedom of not having to be tied to the nonprofit mission only has allowed us to really come up with some great creative types of shows and connect with a lot of great creators in our football community and starting to expand into other sports and topics as well, like music and food and comedy. We're doing a lot of great stuff now, and it's really exciting.
And it's a great way to engage the fan community from the University of Michigan that spreads all throughout our local area, from here in West Bloomfield with a strong connection to Ann Arbor, and then all throughout the world. That's a big part of this, too, because nowadays with the technology that's available, anybody can start a media venture of their own. They can create a podcast, they can create shows, but you have a unique perspective on this yourself and Chris as well as alumni of the University of Michigan and alumni of the University of Michigan football program, but also as fans of football also. So as you begin this, how much did fan engagement play into how you're putting together these different programs and the collective of Hail Media Group?
A big part of it. I mean, we want to involve the community and the fan base in a lot of ways. One of the things that we actually did was Chris had connected with the owner of one of these fan groups on Facebook that had 13,000 members, and had gotten to know the administrator of the group, and told him about what we were doing. they were very interested in the idea and wanted to kind of be a part of it. And so what we did was we basically took over the group. It's in the name of the group is the Big House, and now it's the Big House presented by Hale Media, and there's 13,000 members in this Facebook group. So we really wanted to try to activate those folks and get them involved. And we've had a couple of Zooms with like the team of admins, because there's multiple admins in a group. So we Zoomed with them, let them know what we were doing. We've done some exclusive content in that group and really tried to get them to be a part of it. And there's going to be some segments on some of these shows that are going to be features on fans and allow them to come on as guests and tell some of their stories. So we definitely want to involve the fans, because kind of to your point, Tyler, we're fans too. Even though we played, we're still big fans of Michigan sports and all the things that go with it, the culture around it, the music, I want to get like the marching band folks involved as well, because we love the band, and that's a big part of our culture and really the whole experience of a football game at Michigan. So there's a lot of ways that we want to get as many people kind of under the tent as possible, for sure.
He hails from West Bloomfield and online from Hale Media Group. Doug Cohen joins us on the Splash Live today. You're familiar with him from Frameable Faces Photography and M10 Social. With both of those ventures, Doug, it's never quite as simple as I shoot photos for clients and I deliver those photos to them, or I make some social media posts for clients and that's where it ends. You always find a way to take these ideas of yours that are generated from here in West Bloomfield with your businesses as you run all of them day by day to a different level. How are you incorporating that into this? Because media groups pop up all the time. They create podcasts, they create networks of podcasts, they create web shows and all of that. What are some of the new wrinkles you and your group here are throwing in that are going to make this really engaging for Michigan sports fans?
Well, yeah, so that's actually an interesting way to put it, because you're right. I say that I just wrote an article on M10 Social on my website, on the blog, about behind the scenes and the launching of a new brand. And I go into all this detail about the genesis of Hale Media, right? And I've been a creator and a digital marketer now for a long time here at Frameable Faces, which is obviously very visual. Allie, my wife, is the photographer here, and we had our own live stream show from the studio on Periscope when Periscope was a thing. Mm-hmm. So all of these elements that have really been threads that have run through each of these, endeavors do kind of all intertwine a bit. And I've taken a little bit of what I've learned and what's worked in each of these businesses, and I've been able to weave them together. So I can use what I've done with M10 Social. I've got a music blog on M10 Social. So one of my shows on Hale Media is the Maize and Blue Mixtape, which is a show based on music, and it's presented by M10 Social and Doug's Music Snobbery. So I've kind of, cross-breeded those brands and brought what I've done with one to bear in the other. So you're right. I mean, we've been able to do a lot of this that I think your average person who just starts a podcast might not have all these elements to bring to it. And the thing about it is, on the content side with podcasts, Chris Howard has been in this game for a long time in the production space. He's got a production studio down in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So creating shows, pitching shows to networks, he's been doing this for a long time. So between his skill set and kind of what I've been doing on a day-to-day basis for years with content creation and digital marketing, we've been able to really bring a lot of elements to round this thing out and make it a really comprehensive network. I mean, we've got a dozen shows now already. 7 of them are already launched on the Hale Media YouTube channel, and 5 more of them are in production and about ready to get going soon. So this is not just we launched a podcast. This is a full-blown network with lots of elements and lots of topics.
Storytelling from a number of different angles that give you some insight into the University of Michigan and their sports programs, their sports history, the personalities, and the individuals that fans have gotten to know over the years. And in the short time it's already been operating since launching, Doug, what have been some of the more exciting or unique or even surprising segments or episodes you've been able to piece together? Some of those personalities you've already brought in from Michigan lore into now Hail Media.
Yeah, well, one of the ones that I love to talk about is there's a guy who played right after me. His name's Brian Letcher, and he's had a nice long career in Hollywood. He's been a regular on the show Scandal. He's been on episodes of NYPD Blue, SVU, and he created this character. And it's one of our series on Hail Media. It's called The Brent Sparling Mysteries. And the character, Brent Sparling, is a investigative. He's an investigative reporter, takes himself really seriously, but he's kind of a bumbling boob, at the same time. And every week he covers a story leading up to the next Michigan game, but it ends up never being really about the game. It's always some conspiracy theory. Like when we opened the season with New Mexico at home, he was convinced that he'd uncovered a plot that New Mexico was going to bring their UFOs, from Roswell and hover them over the big house and try to get an advantage. So they're really funny, and they've already, Sports Illustrated, SI.com, ran an article about the Brent Sparling mysteries. So that was pretty cool that we got noticed. And every week, as a matter of fact, I think the Wisconsin mystery is probably going to drop tomorrow. So he's been great. He's really talented, really funny. And that was a big one. We've also had a big response to the animated short that we did in our series Tales from Schembechler Hall, where Chris recounts a story from the 1997 season where Lloyd Carr challenged the running backs to play like Curtis Enos. And it's pretty funny. It's a cartoon. And so we've really done some stuff that I don't think anyone else is doing. And people are starting to notice. The other show, I could talk about this all day, but the other show that I'm really proud of too is one called Blue Bloodlines. We've gotten a couple of multi-generational Michigan players to sit down, father and son, to talk about their experiences and kind of challenge each other and talk about growing up as either a son with a dad who played or as a dad watching their son go through what they did. And we've done it with the Frasers already, Steve Frazier, who's on the 97 team, and Blake Frazier, who's a current tackle on the team, and Caden Colasar and his dad, John Colasar, who was my teammate at Michigan. And both of those segments are gold. They're just great conversations to see them, father and son, sit down and talk about their experiences at Michigan. So we're really, really excited about the stuff we're putting out.
We have so many connections between West Bloomfield and Ann Arbor, as I said earlier on. Any chance in the near future, Doug, we may see some of our former West Bloomfield Lakers make appearances on Hail Media?
Hey, we would certainly like to, especially for the so right now some of those guys are very busy. They're in the middle of the season because they've had so much success, and some of them are still playing. I would love to get some of those guys, Makari or Donovan or, even Samaj at some point, even though he's currently playing. But yeah, I would love to put a focus on some of the local guys. We're really excited to see the success of the West Bloomfield Lakers, a mile and a half up the street from the studio here. So I would love to have that happen soon.
All right, Doug, before we let you go, because we do got to move on now, you mentioned earlier on fans can get involved not only by watching a variety of different programming and getting some insights into the University of Michigan football program and other sports from those with inside perspectives, but also they have a way to engage in these shows. Also, if they want to at least view them, if not engage with them, where can they go? Where can they find you?
So they can find us on most of the social media platforms, and it's always on every one of them. It's at Hail Media Group, all one word, Hail Media Group. So you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow the shorts on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can follow the page, and you can even join the group. The nice thing about a group is it's kind of, it's decentralized. Anybody can post in the group, so you can really get involved in the group, the Big House presented by Hail Media. What am I missing? We're on LinkedIn, and we're also, and the longer form content is also going out as audio podcasts on iHeartRadio and Amazon and Spotify and Apple, so you'll be able to listen to them that way as well.
All across social media, at Hale Media Group is the place to find Doug and his team as they've launched this new venture to help you get further engaged as a University of Michigan football or other sports fan. Doug, thank you so much for joining us as always.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Appreciate being with you again.
Appreciate you and having you come on the show each and every time that you do. Always a fun conversation. Find Hale Media on all across social media at Hale Media Group. That includes on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram. As Doug said, anywhere they're going to be on social media, they're going to be under the handle at Hale Media Group. We'll take a break on the Splash Live. On the other side, last week, a massive water main break caused boil water advisories for several communities in Oakland County outside of Greater West Bloomfield. But they also have had an effect right here close to home in our community. We'll get more insight on that and how West Bloomfield is actually helping the recovery in Novi and surrounding areas with Justin Taylor from West Bloomfield Township. Stay with us, live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
I'm Gina Gregory, president of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. I'm excited that Civic Center TV has reached 1 million views on YouTube. Congratulations. That's just terrific. We appreciate everything Civic Center does for the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society and the community. For us, they promote and highlight our events. It's awesome to have them available 24/7 on YouTube. I'm Gina Gregory and proud to be 1 in a million.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy, and if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. And now, back to the Splash, live.
Live, local, social, welcome back to the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host for today, Tyler Keefe. Thank you so much for joining us and, of course, for following along with all of our content each and every day and the latest updates from across Greater West Bloomfield on CivicCenterTV.com and throughout our social media at Civic Center TV 15 on Facebook and everywhere else at Civic Center TV. Recently, just outside of our community in Novi, a massive 42-inch water main break last week shut down faucets all across several communities and towns in western Oakland County, including neighbors as close to home as Commerce. Here in West Bloomfield, the township issued an outdoor watering ban in an effort to support the Great Lakes Water Authority, the city of Novi, and other communities in the restoration efforts following that water main break. Here with more insight on is the Water and Sewer Utilities Director for West Bloomfield Township, Justin Taylor, with us on the Splash Live. Director Taylor, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, Tyler, thank you for having me.
Happy to have you on to dive a little bit deeper into this issue because while it's a massive water main break outside of our community, that break does have an impact on our water systems here in Greater West Bloomfield as there's so much connection between Novi, between Wixom, Commerce, West Bloomfield, and all of Southeast Michigan through the Great Lakes Water Authority. So I want to begin with when there is a break like that, a 42-inch water main break early in the morning, just before 7:30 on September 25th. It happens in Novi. How does that impact systems all the way down the line, even as far away as here in West Bloomfield?
Yeah, so Tyler, there are 5 treatment plants in the Great Lakes Water Authority system. And that 42-inch main that broke feeds, like you said, multiple communities. So we are on that main. That is one of our main feeds, but we are further east from that break. So when they isolate that down to make repairs, we were not one of the communities that was at a loss of the water there. They isolate west of us, and we stayed with that main is still feeding water to West Bloomfield, basically.
And so that requires some changes in our community, certainly in other communities like Novi and Wixom, Commerce, and others in that general area of Oakland County. Immediately, boil water advisories advising people to, if they do have water pressure still, that they boil that water to remove the possibility of harmful bacteria getting into their drinking water, their cleaning water, etc., or that they use bottled water. But here in West Bloomfield, just shortly after that water main break last week, the township issued an outdoor watering ban. How does something like that help to support the efforts in restoring water in other parts of the county by restricting some use of water here in West Bloomfield, where there wasn't as significant necessarily of an impact from that water main break?
Yeah, so by us asking our residents to not use any unnecessary water, any outdoor water at this time, we have 2 emergency connections to Commerce Township, and those are open right now. So the water that Commerce Township, Wixom, and Walled Lake are receiving is coming through the West Bloomfield system. We're just asking our citizens to limit the amount of water that they're using to help support pushing all that water through the West Bloomfield distribution system into those neighboring communities to help keep their pressures up, hopefully get them out of the boil water advisory sooner than later. And that way everybody's got water. We're just asking that we limit what we use, whatever you can do to hold off on using any outdoor water really helps those neighboring communities.
And it's not a situation that we're unfamiliar with here in Greater West Bloomfield. Just a few years back, shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic by a couple of years, there was a similar water main break here in Greater West Bloomfield that caused a water outage, boil water advisory for several days on end here, and support came in from other communities as well, through the Great Lakes Water Authority, through just neighboring townships and cities surrounding Greater West Bloomfield. So when an emergency regarding our water and those utilities does happen in a community nearby, what are some of the additional ways that maybe perhaps a community like West Bloomfield Township may support a city like Novi in these efforts and the Great Lakes Water Authority, or vice versa if something like this were to happen again here in West Bloomfield Township?
Yeah, you said it very well there. So like I said, we have those 2 emergency connections open to Commerce right now. Those would go the opposite direction. If we were in need, those communities to our west could feed West Bloomfield. We've got connections on our eastern border with Bloomfield Township, on our southern border with Farmington Hills. So, we work as a region here and try to keep everybody with safe, potable drinking water. And that goes both directions. In the case of this break, we never lost pressure to where we needed to go into a boil water. So if you're in West Bloomfield, you haven't had to, and you don't need to, unless notified, boil your water before consuming it. So we're able to supply our neighboring communities with that water. But in turn, had this break happen further east of where it's at on that 42-inch line, and it did affect West Bloomfield, it may not affect Novi. It may not have affected Wixom. And those communities could assist through the emergency connections to one another. They could be pumping their water to us just like we are doing to them.
So now what determines whether or not a community would fall under a boil water advisory? I'm out in Western Oakland County, right around the area where this water main break had happened. Initially, I wasn't on a boil water advisory. A few days ago, my community began to go under that. I read some about Water pressure does have an impact on it. I've got regular water pressure, but I'm still under this advisory. There's obviously a reason behind that. What are some of the motivating factors that GLEWA or local municipalities put into effect that decide whether or not a boil water advisory is advised to the community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a state of Michigan regulatory thing. It's if you have significant loss of pressure within your water system, which could lead to bacterial contamination. So that to put a number to it, if you reach 20 psi or less in your system, the conditions exist that harmful bacteria from outside could make its way into that system. So the boil water, like for instance, Commerce and Wixom initially did not have a boil water with this break. We were able to feed water to them quickly enough to keep them up. But it was the next morning where what's called high demand or our peak hour of many surrounding communities between like 5 and 7 a.m. That's when we're using the most water. When that occurred, those communities then drop below that 20 psi mark, which then triggers a boil water advisory. And that's why they're in that now. Yes, you do have water if you happen to be in those communities, but until 2 BAC-T sample tests come back negative for BAC-T 24 hours apart, that advisory cannot be lifted.
And here close to home in Greater West Bloomfield, the outdoor watering ban still remains in effect to help support neighboring communities that our water systems and those emergency systems are currently helping to flow water into, like Commerce next door. Justin, I received that notification here from our team at Civic Center TV over systems like Nixle. I'd imagine that's going to be a communication tool that will be used by the Water and Sewer Utilities Department to notify when that ban does come to a close. What can we expect in terms of a timeline for that? Is there any estimation as of now, as we're on October 1st doing this interview live, that residents of Greater West Bloomfield can expect to have that outdoor watering ban be lifted?
Yeah. Initially, right after the break, GLWA, Great Lakes Water Authority, gave us a 10 to 15 day window for full repairs on this to be back in regular service. So it's, the end is near, but until they can energize that 42-inch main and take out all these communities back to normal service, we're just asking our residents to limit what they're using outdoors to help keep those communities with water. I would say late next week would be the worst case scenario, but please just, if you don't need to, don't use that outdoor water, and we can keep our neighboring communities with water to use.
So again, if you're watching online, on demand, or you're watching this back in a show such as the Best of the Splash Live, this interview happened live Wednesday morning, October 1st of 2025. So there may be updates, wbtownship.org, a good place to go. Signing up for Nixle alerts in your zip code here in West Bloomfield, another place for those updates. And keep in mind, as Justin Taylor, the Director of Water and Sewer Utilities in West Bloomfield, just mentioned, 10 to 15 day restoration window from the water main break that occurred originally Thursday, September 25th in the city of Novi. So that's about where we're at in that timeline. Justin, before we let you go, this is an emergency that has previously affected Greater West Bloomfield, currently affecting Novi, and in some other ancillary ways affecting nearby communities still at this time. But as we come out of the month of September, National Preparedness Month, and now into the month of October, we can still focus on the preparation efforts for if and when this should happen in our community going forward. What can residents of West Bloomfield take away from this current scenario as far as lessons to help them be prepared in the event that a water main break may occur in our community in the future?
Yeah. Again, we lucked. West Bloomfield did luck out in this one where it does not directly affect us. We're able to help others. That that could very easily have been here, where we would be utilizing the help of Great Lakes Water Authority or other member partners such as those as our surrounding communities. And we don't get a warning for this kind of thing. We don't. So it's just. It's always a good idea to maybe keep a case of bottled water, something that until things get figured out during a water main break, whether or not it triggers a boil water advisory, that you would have on hand just for in an emergency situation. And it is eye-opening. Now we've had multiple breaks over several years on this large transmission line, but it's comforting to know that as a region we come together and can help each other out in these situations.
And for more updates, again, sign up for Nixle Alerts, Nixle in Greater West Bloomfield. They are free alerts. Of course, text message and other data rates with your phone plan may apply to that. We'll have more information on that in just a moment. Director Taylor, any last insight for us as we continue through this situation at this time?
Again, just if you could not use water, that's not absolutely necessary, and we'll keep assisting our neighbors here. And we do appreciate it, and we will get the word out when that ban has been lifted. Thank you all for doing what you can do to help support the regional system here.
And we'll help you keep the community informed on that front as well. Director Taylor, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
For more updates from the Water and Sewer Utilities Department or any department across West Bloomfield Township, go to their website, wbtownship.org. You can also get in contact with the Water Department for any questions that you may have about this ongoing situation as time goes on. Also, a good idea to follow the township across their social media, Facebook and Instagram at WB Township, another good place to get those updates. As I mentioned, Nixle is a great place to get these emergency updates from the police department, from the water department in situations like we have right now with the water main break nearby in Novi, affecting in some ways and others us in Greater West Bloomfield. A couple ways you can do that. Nixle.com is their website, Nixle.com, Nixle.com, where you can sign up with your zip code or multiple zip codes to get emergency information from local authorities. Another way to do that, text your zip code to 888-777. And it's not limited to one zip code, so you can enter a few of those from across West Bloomfield if you want a larger scope of the township to get those alerts. Also, you can sign up for alerts nearby as well. So I have them in my hometown over in western Oakland County, as well as for West Bloomfield, of course, for my day-to-day work here at Civic Center TV. They are free depending on your phone plan. Some may, of course, if you have to pay for text messages, those could end up having an effect. Just keep that in mind. Again, zip code, text that your zip code to 888-777 or visit Nixle.com, where that information will also be available. For nearly 60 years, those who some may call the first family of Keego Harbor have been serving their community as volunteers and serving their customers at their iconic restaurant on Cass Lake Road. Now, Gino and Irene Santia are set to be honored by the state of Michigan in recognition of Italian American Heritage Month, of course, that being here in October. But before their special day in Lansing next week, they join me right here on the Splash Live to talk about this unique and long overdue honor. Gino and Irene Santia, thank you both for joining us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Glad to have you both on as we get ready to recognize you in the month of October. The state of Michigan will be formally recognizing the both of you during some of their Italian American Heritage Month recognitions. Gino, how does it feel to be recognized by the state of Michigan for yours and your family's continued service over the decades to Keego Harbor and the state of Michigan?
I feel very honored. We both feel very honored about the award. It's very heartfelt, very, very nice of them to do that for us.
And Irene, to you, I mean, it doesn't take a yeoman's effort to get involved in your community. It's about having that initial love for your hometown or a place that you call home, and then getting involved. But what do you think has been the secret for you, for Gino, for your family, in not only getting involved in the community, but having the community then share that love back with your family over these past 56 years and counting?
Well, we brought our heritage, what we grew up in, into the community, into our restaurant, and tried to share it with the people that we deal with in the city and around us. And we've kind of stuck to that, and people come to appreciate it. And we managed to stay here for 56 years with that mantra.
Yeah, may I add that people that come in here, our customers, we make them feel like family. We, especially if they become regulars, they are our work family. So I think they feel that they're part of our family as well.
We're considered a family Cheers. Everybody comes in here and they feel like they're at Cheers in Boston. So.
It's kind of that secondary home for people in Keego Harbor, for those that live just outside of the city in West Bloomfield and Waterford and Sylvan Lake and Pontiac. They come into Keego, they go to Gino's, they feel part of the Keego Harbor community. Now, this honor is for Italian American Heritage Month. You will be honored at the Michigan Capitol in October. There's going to be a ceremony there. I was told the celebration will be held on October 8th. For this particular honor, Irene, for you, not only this is an honor for your heritage in the city of Keego Harbor, but your Italian American heritage too, so both professionally and personally. What does this honor for this particular month from your state mean to you?
I'm so proud. I'm so proud to be Italian. We are first generation Italians. Our parents came from the same hometown and married here. My father served in World War II in the service, and proud to be Italian and happy to be American. And happy my parents immigrated here. Our life would have been entirely different had we grown up in Italy. We've embraced Keego Harbor as our hometown, and we both love to visit our hometown in Italy as well. So, we have that connection. Being a first generation, we have the connection to Italy and the United States as well. They're both our homes.
And Gino, not only through your cuisine are you honoring your Italian heritage at your restaurant in Keego Harbor, but in what other ways do you believe that what it means to be an Italian and an Italian American is reflected in both your restaurant and yours and your family's involvement in the Heart of the Lakes?
Well, the heritage that we grew up in, my mother and father just taught us such great values and morals, and we've continued that through our business and with our friends and our acquaintances, and that's the way we live, and I think people have embraced it around us, and I've gotten involved with a lot of the people as well as with the city and other ventures, and we support groups that come to us for help and charities and stuff, and so it's the giving way the Italians do. We're just embrace people, and we're very, very generous in that way.
Gino and Irene Santia are joining us on the Splash Live today. They are set to be honored in mid-October by the state of Michigan. They will be receiving a proclamation recognizing them as exceptional Italian Americans in their business and their service to the community. A direct quote from a press release from Gino's Pizzeria and Restaurant, and Pamela White, the publisher at the Italian Tribune, earlier this month. It's going to be a big celebration both at the Capitol in Lansing, but also in Keego Harbor, as this was announced just in about 1 month ago. Gino, what's the response been like from the community for you and Irene since this has been announced?
Well, we've had a lot of congratulatories, a lot of comments on Facebook. We happen to post it on Facebook, and we've had a lot of great support, people coming up to us, shaking our hands, and appreciate what we've done, and it's very rewarding, very nice.
Gino,
it's nice to know
Irene
that people recognize us.
Yeah, always nice to be recognized, especially when you have had the impact that the Santia family has had on the city of Keego Harbor over the years. Irene, you and Gino have worked very hard to create a family-like atmosphere at Gino's and to contribute to that in the city of Keego Harbor. For those that have either just moved into the city or maybe they've been there for a number of years but have struggled to find a way to get involved, what do you believe is the biggest asset that someone can bring to enhancing a family-like environment across the entire community in Keego Harbor?
Let's see. I think they should get out there and meet people. The people here are very welcoming and love new residents in the community. Even if you just come here to Gino's, you'll meet a lot of the community, people that live in the community, and they'll welcome you to whatever you are interested, whatever your interests are, to get involved or to volunteer.
I think a big part of it is, Tyler, that we've been here so long, and people look at it as a staple of the community, and they know that we're going to be here, and we're not going anywhere. We become part of the involved volunteering and stuff, and so they know that we're here, and they embrace us, and we're just here. We're just here for them. We're not going anywhere.
And you're going to be going to Lansing in October. October 8th at 11 a.m. is when the state capitol is set to hold this recognition for Italian American Heritage Month. The event hosted by State Representative Joe Aragona from the 60th District, and certainly many people from the heart of the lakes and Greater West Bloomfield will be there to help celebrate our dignitaries and many representatives from our community as well. Gino, Irene, before we let you go, I want to end with this. As you have now gone about almost 60 years serving the city of Keego Harbor, you've made a big impact over that time. You've seen a lot of changes in the community. What's your hope for the years to come as this community continues to evolve and continues to be, surprisingly, even in today's day and age where we see so much division in our society, somehow, some way, getting closer every day?
I think personally we've been instrumental in creating an environment of business here in the community, and people have come to realize that businesses are good for their community, and I think I'd like to see a continuation of that attitude in the city so that we can continue growing the community through the business community and residential as well.
Well, we appreciate both of you being on. Before we let you go, Irene, anything else that you'd like to say about this honor or the response from the community before we say goodbye today?
I'm just honored and so proud of our heritage, and that we have an Italian American month, and we're part of that celebration. That's all I can say. I'm so thankful for all the years that have flown by. For 56 years have flown by for us.
I think our parents would be very proud of us at this point. They're looking down on us and probably smiling, I would think.
I think so.
They're very proud.
Yeah.
And
proud parents.
And we have children now that we have another generation coming into the business. So we hope to see this still continued over the years.
Another 60 years.
Yeah, certainly going to be a continued impact. A staple of the Keego Harbor community being recognized now at a more macro level at the state capitol in early October. October 8th is the celebration at the Michigan State Capitol, recognizing Gino and Irene Santia for their contributions to the community in recognition of Italian American Heritage Month. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
You can celebrate with Gino, Irene, and the entire Santia community on their Facebook page at 1999 CAS LKRD. Celebrate with them over at Gino's as well as next week they'll head out to Lansing to be recognized by our state legislature. The cities and towns of Greater West Bloomfield love their boats, and now the next generation is learning the skills that they need to get themselves out on the water and build a brand new hobby of their own. Civic Center TV intern Ishan Desai stopped by one of our local lakes to learn more.
I'm here at Cass Lake, where Community School Sailing is hosting its Try It Out night. Parents and kids can get out onto the water and get a first-hand experience with the boats and equipment to see what this year of scholastic sailing will be like.
I think that one thing you should know is that sailing is one of those experiences that you think it's just sitting on a boat, but truly there's so many aspects to it that make it amazing. You get to learn how to tie knots, how to sail the boat, and if you come around with us a lot more often, you get to learn about the racing style and the techniques used in professional sailing that are even used in an Olympic environment, which I think is a very unique tool in the fall and spring times, where we have even clinics with professional sailing coaches and even mentors.
Out here, I mean, sailing being on the water is just something that is, I think, really therapeutic to people, really appealing for a lot of reasons. Cass Lake is a very busy lake with lots of boaters, and we have one of the largest sailing programs, so I'd say a lot of people just want to be part of something that's a growing sport around the nation, around the world, and it's a great way to meet a new community, and a really great community at that. So
I will say high school and the middle school sailing with a community sailing school, it brings in not just one high school, so it's not just West Bloomfield, it's not just Groves, it's not Seaholm, it's not just DCDS, it's all of the schools coming together. So you're meeting so many people from so many different areas, and we're coming together, we're having dinner together, we're sailing together, we're competing together. And it's a great way to meet people in the community and make so many friends, not just within your school, but just around the entire Oakland County area.
before the start of each high school season in the fall, we like to allow new prospective members, students, to try out high school racing for the first time. They usually arrive after school, or in this case in the evening, and they're going to go out on boats, and they're going to learn a little bit about sailing if they haven't already, and they're going to get to know their coaches, and they're going to get familiar with Cass Lake.
So scholastic sailing works a lot like our other sports in our high schools and our middle schools, except we're traveling to our other events. So when we get our middle school programs are more about training and learning how to sail, and then our high schools continue on to go to different events all over the Midwest and across the nation. So it works a lot like a soccer or a football team, except our meets or our games are regional. So we go to different places in Michigan or out of state to compete against other sailors. I think sailing is similar to other sports, that if we're athletic and minded and we're good at basketball, good at football, it comes to us pretty easily. But if we're not real athletic minded, I wasn't a real athlete as a young person, but sailing is, because there's a lot of mental and focus and thought process to it, as well as a physical aspect, it works well for us that are not always the most physical people for regular conventional sports.
It was great to get out onto the water and get a first-hand experience with the boats. If you want to get out on the water and learn about the sport of sailing, be sure to come to the Try It Out night at Cass Lake. For Civic Center TV, I'm Ishan Desai.
To learn even more about the Community Sailing Academy, you can watch our interview online with one of their directors, Eric Ellison. That's available on demand on civiccentertv.com. 48 hours from now, we'll be preparing to trek north for West Bloomfield Lakers football on the road at Oxford High School. And one of this season's breakout stars used to be a supporting player on the defensive side. Now in 2025, he's West Bloomfield's #1 receiver. I spoke to Willie Edwards on This Week in Laker Football about his first 5 weeks as wide receiver #1 and how he is contributing to those 5 consecutive Laker victories.
I mean, it feels good, me, I've been in their shadows since really sophomore year. So I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from, Jackson Carver. And, he helped me a lot, really a lot, because he trusted me. It's just been great to actually see that the hard work is paying off. And it feels good to actually to really contribute, really, because when we had lost to A&T, I wasn't playing. So it was just it kind of hurt because, I couldn't really do much about the loss. So, it felt good.
And to have that experience going back with Jackson, too, from the JV days coming up in this program, you and other receivers on this team, other key skill players on this team, that's got to be a big contributor to the performance breaking out these first 5 weeks. Yeah,
because me and Jackson, we go way back because he got, practice on Saturdays with just, me and him and the receivers. So we worked a lot, there. We built our connection and our trust, and, it's showing great. So I'm proud.
254 yards receiving and 1 touchdown for Willie Edwards through the first 5 weeks. He's averaging just insane numbers right now, 25.4 yards per catch in 2025, and the Groves game alone, 17 yards per catch. Looking on paper from just a year ago, you'd be right up there with guys like Elijah Durham and Jaden Allos, Cam Flowers on the stat sheet. So for you, as you entered this season, what were some of your individual goals that ultimately would have been helping the team, and how do you feel you're achieving them so far?
I mean, like, really, I wasn't really expecting a play receiver because I played linebacker last year for the Lakers, and, I was hoping to fill in that role. But a spot opened up, and I stepped up, and I'm glad. And it's been great to, help the team win, because that's always the goal at the end of the day, because without a team, there's nothing, So.
You spoke earlier about learning together with Jackson and some of the other players that have come up from JV in recent years have had that experience together. But, last year being on the team in the linebacker core, but being able to practice against people like Elijah Durham and Jaden Allos, who had a lot of varsity experience, Cameron Flowers, who had experience at West Bloomfield as well as in Ann Arbor, previously playing high-level football. How did that help you maybe make that transition in 2025 to being a full-time wide receiver, and beyond that, being wide receiver number 1?
I mean, it helped me because I got to, I wouldn't say, I say I got to learn from the best because, they're at D1 schools right now, so they helped me a lot. They taught me how to break and things like that. So, it's just good to, actually have like a mentor kind of. So, yeah.
Lakers 5-0. They're going to be going on the road once again, back into northern Oakland County this week. Oxford on the docket, Friday, 7 p.m. kickoff. We will have a live broadcast for you from the away side of the field at Oxford High School. 7 o'clock kickoff. Our coverage will begin right around 6:30, 6:45 p.m. CivicCenterTV.com/Lakers Sports. Your second year on varsity, now playing at the wide receiver position. It's really night and day, it seems, from last year, the performance of this team. Having been on that team, having seen it from the defensive side, seen it from the second string and the first string a bit in 2024, what do you think is the big difference with this team that's helped go from being a team on the cusp of being over 500 in 2024 to being one of the final undefeated teams in Division I?
The key thing for us has been really brotherhood and leadership because, last year we lacked that a lot. And, in the offseason we preached it. In the weight room we preached that as well. In meetings, all that stuff, we preach brotherhood and we have that. And that's like the biggest key thing because, we help each other and we build each other up after mistakes. Like when Will had fumbled, we told him, hey, bro, we got you. You keep your head up and just make plays. And he did and helped us win.
Yeah, he came back and he had 2 big defensive stops in the fourth quarter that set up a game-winning drive, a game-sealing drive. They were up 12-7 at the time, but included a touchdown where he really did earn that back at the end of the game. That fourth quarter MVP for Will Espy and Willie Edwards. Been the MVP in the receiving corps for the Lakers all season long. Going to be a big contributor in these next few weeks as the thick of the OAA Red schedule goes forward. Willie, before we let you go, I want to dive back into that locker room for this season. You mentioned the brotherhood, building those bonds, maintaining that chemistry. That's something that every player, every coach talks about every single season. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to aim for it. It's another thing to achieve it. What do you think has been a difference maker in turning this locker room into arguably the closest in the OAA Red this season?
It's really been our captains. I got to give very, very high praise to like Will Espy, Jeremiah Benson, Kamari Pittman, and Jamar Shakespeare. I have to give high praise to those guys because they told us that this is a great team and we got great trust and great bond. And, that bond has built and is getting stronger and stronger every day. And it's been showing that it's working. We don't really, I wouldn't say, we don't really bring each other down. We help build and get stronger and stronger. So that has been like a really key factor for us. And it's been great.
You can follow the Lakers all season long, including this week when they head back on the road to Oxford High School on CivicCenterTV.com/Lakers Sports. That's our show. I want to remind you that television that's close to home is always online on CivicCenterTV.com and across all of our social media. Big thank you to our crew at Master Control for making today's show possible, and of course to you for tuning in as well. For our entire team, I'm Tyler Kieft, live, local, social. Thanks for tuning in to the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.